FM, Burby's 99.5 FM, Kaiser Radio.
Distributed in Guyana by Saria Manufacturing Inc.
It is 13 hours 34 in Guyana and right across the Eastern Caribbean. Hello and good afternoon to you. Welcome to today's edition of the Elections and COVID-19 Watch. We coming to you live from 24 Saffron Street, Charlestown, 99.1 FM in Demerara and Essequibo, 99.5 FM in Berbice, online at KaicherNewsOnline.com via Facebook page and YouTube channel, Kaicher Radio, or for quicker access, download the MyTuner app or the Radio Garden app and simply select Kaicher Radio. It is the 14th day of July and once again, welcome down to today's edition of the Elections Watch and COVID-19. There are lots to discuss, so without further delay, let me hand you over to the host of the show, Leonard Gildarie, senior journalist of Kaicher News, and of course, co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Gentlemen, a pleasant good afternoon to you.
Thank you very much, dear Joshua, and Raj, a good afternoon to you. It's July the 14th, 2020, and it's 134 days would have passed since that March the 2nd elections, and there's much to tell you today. With regards to our elections meeting today, GCOM would have been setting itself to have a meeting this afternoon from all indications with the submission of the report by Kit Lowenfield. But as we speak right now, there's news coming out that there has been a court case filed by somebody called Messenger Jones. It sounds something out of a fiction book, but it is what it is. Messenger Jones has filed a court case asking that the GCOM chair go ahead. It has no authority except, or she has no authority except to go ahead and make a declaration based on the figures that what Kit Lowenfield would have submitted. As we speak also, there were several news coming out today as Guyana watched in Linden on the Essequibo coast, 2 fires on the Essequibo coast. We're not sure if they're connected or they're not. The investigation is going on. What we could tell you is that a GCOM building that was rented from a private person, it has gone up in flames. There seems to be, according to initial reports, as it's arson. On the Essequibo coast, former army armory fire there, and then there's also, I think it is something to do with the police. I'm going to bring that information up, but one of the building which has court files and among other things, there were some fires, some attempts there to light it a fire as well. 3 different fires. This morning also Sharon's building on Charlotte Street, there was some fire there, bomb scares. And so it's all happening, and I want to say to you people today, it's the 134th day since that March 2nd. We would have spent an entire year waiting for elections. It was a must. It was something that was inevitable after that December the 21st, 2018, no confidence motion. We've been patient throughout that time. We have paid attention. We have. It's been tough because we want this over with and done. Then we were hit with COVID-19. So we want to say, hold the faith. This is from Dr. Yog Mahadeo and myself. As I came down these bank road this morning, I couldn't help but thinking how much of a people, how much strength that we have, how much strength that we've gained from each other. Thank God, Yog being here, myself and Yog and the other team members here of Kaicho Radio and our immediate families as well. And of course, you people who've been joining us day in, day out to let us try to make sense out of what was happening. I think we've learned a lot from each other. So let us, hold the faith. Do not lose hope. As long as there's hope, there's so many things that are very possible. So without further ado, I would want to go straight over to my co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, and say good day to you, sir. And we could start our discussions right here, right now. How are you doing, Yog? Over to you. I think you have your mic muted, Yog. Could you go ahead?
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you. As we predicted, Basil Williams would have instructed, you would have seen his instructions on the Guyana rag again. And so somebody would have filed court action. What is strange about this? Well, they're all strange. They're all very strange. What is extremely worrying about this one is that this person has made a declaration that the person says, I swear on an affidavit that, where is it? The usual thing that I must, okay, here it is. The applicant is a citizen of Guyana, a registered voter in electoral district number 4, which was duly qualified to vote and voted at the last general and regional elections held on 2nd March 2020. Leonard, let me repeat that. This person who, the lawyer, by the way, is the same guy, Mayo Robertson. Mm-hmm. That's the attorney. And the applicant who is taking or filing this lawsuit swears that the applicant is a citizen of Guyana registered to vote and voted. So the name of this applicant is Messenger Jones, Misenja, Messenger Jones. Did I get that right, Leonard?
I think I added a problem. It sounded like Messenger to me, but whatever it is, that's...
Yes, it is here. I have it in front of me, Misenga, Messenger Jones.
Yes.
So I would want to ensure that we can check the court. The court should obviously try to ensure it can check that such a person, if the affidavit is falsely sworn, then this person should be hauled in front of the court and his attorney for filing something like this. But let us see more agony for the Guyanese people.
What is it that is in that? What are they asking for? An initial glance at it, I saw it just briefly just now. It is saying that the GCOM chair should go ahead and make the declaration based on what Keith Lowenfield, this latest 5th edition of his figures, to go ahead and make the declaration based on that. Is that what I'm seeing? And among other things, there's several other things that the person is asking for.
Correct. Now, this person is not interested that Lowenfield should do the right thing and should comply with Order 60. This person is interested that Lowenfield steals something, give it to the commission, and the commissioner has to eat it. Here is how it is. Let's put it in colloquial terms. This person named Messenger Jones is interested that Lowenfield has stolen an election. He has given to the chairman poisonous fruit, and the chairman, whether he or she likes it or not, whether it's against the law, whether it's a breach of law, the chairman must accept illegal something and say go ahead. No way, Leonard. I mean, the courts, I don't know what's going to happen with justice in Guyana if this sees the light of day. But literally, are they saying that, okay, somebody steals something and give it to you, Leonard, and you have a legal right to accept it and to use it and to share it to other people, knowing it was stolen, Mm-hmm. And that is what is happening here.
Well, let's see if there's any judge that were there. I think if it's been filed, doesn't mean that judges accepted it, or no. What does it really mean?
This is again a notice, isn't it? It's not. There is no date. There is nothing to it. It is just a notice Again, and Mr. Lowenfield is suddenly going to hide because of this notice. Remember, this happened before. This is not a court document per se. It's a notice that they're going to file this. So I would want to ensure that I can find out. I would want to ensure we can ask someone of our legal experts if a person swears on an affidavit that I voted at these last elections and I this and I that, and the person's name is Messenger Jones, and there is no Messenger Jones in the electoral list, then is it false? And would the court ever want to listen to something like this? And also, what about the attorney that would want to pass? And well, mind you, again, it seems to be a notice. It seems to be something that they will be filing, not a court document per se. There is no date for a hearing, nothing on it. We know what will happen here. Guyanese brothers and sisters, we know what will happen here. Lowenfield, after the last Court of Appeal put a stay. Here is how illegal this man's action is. After the last court put a stay on its orders, Lowenfield went against the court in full contempt of the court, and he issued an illegal report. But when there was a notice that a filing will take place at the court, he hides and he says, I'm going to comply. Now, this is nothing to stop him from giving his report to the commission at 2 o'clock today. He still has to, and he still should. And if he doesn't, I would rather believe that the chairman has to ensure that she proceeds as promised yesterday.
Are you a betting man, Yog Mahadeo?
No, I don't bet.
Well, if you were a betting man, would you say that Keith Lowenfield is going to show up today with his report?
Not at all. I don't think Keith Lowenfield is going to show up today. I believe there is a game that is being played. I'm going to put it plainly. I hope I'm proven wrong. I believe that yesterday, Lowenfield went with the APNU AFC commissioners, and they had a meeting. I believe today none of the four of them will go, so that the chairman will have to now adjourn and go for a 24 hours. And tomorrow they're going to come and they're going to adjourn again and go for another day, at which time they wouldn't turn up. And then this court, I would rather think they can find a judge that would want to hear them. But it would be interesting to see who will appear with Mr. Mayo Robertson, who named Messenger Jones.
What would be interesting, I'd be more interested to see what judge is going to entertain something like this. This morning, I saw, before we get into some meat of the things and then come back to this very interesting application that has surfaced that we don't have any official confirmation yet whether it's indeed, it looks kind of legit. But I did see something from the Canadian High Commission this morning. She was pointing, I think it's in a tweet, she was pointing to the Suriname, there's a swearing in. Sorry, you saw it, right? And she,
yeah, I saw it. It's on my tweet feed as well.
Yes.
She did say that. Yeah, go ahead.
So it's interesting, Yog. So here's the thing. So here you have a foreign diplomat, and she's making note, and I take these things very seriously. When it comes to Guyana, we should pay attention to our reputation, to how we stand in this entire region and the world, how people look at us. We should be paying attention, because when it comes to oil and among other things, as when you have pride and you have a love for this country, when people say things, you should take umbrage. But the woman was so right, because here she's saying there is the National Assembly of Suriname, weeks after Suriname would have held an election, after Guyana would have held theirs. They have a president has been chosen, and she's saying, you would remember that there's about to say who's been the army strongman, who's been in charge of running the politics of Suriname. He's held the Suriname under an iron fist rule, if you want to put it that way. And now he's out of power. When he lost that election, there was a little hesitancy. But then when you look at the entire world and what the world was prepared, especially as he has a conviction hanging over his head, he went ahead and he conceded. And so here you have the Canadian High Commission, Commissioner to Guyana, who's also in charge of Suriname, this Lillian Chatterjee. She is saying, this is how you concede, this is how you concede. And it sounds, we got to put it as it is. For me, when you have, or when we open in the doors for these kind of things, people to say these things to us, it is a shame. It's a downright shame, and that is because we have leaders, whether you like it or not, we have leaders who are willing to put us through this, and there's no other way to do it. And so I can't blame Lillian Chatterjee. She's calling it as she sees fit, and I believe in my heart that the international community and the rest of the world could could criticize us because we have opened the door for that, and that is something that we should not allow our leaders to do. So that in itself, it's something that really, really hurt me this morning when I saw it, that we have allowed ourselves to go in that direction. I'm not sure whether you have some thoughts about that.
Yes, I'll tell you. I mean, I think Peter Wickham said it well in room 592 last night.
Yes.
The gentleman said that he don't see how is it that David Granger thinks he can represent Guyana now at a UN forum, at a CARICOM forum, at a Commonwealth forum, at any one of these fora now. How will David Granger represent Guyana at any international, and it's mind-boggling now. To Lillian Chatterjee's, the High Commissioner's statement there, I don't see it. I see a lot of people coming out as usual. The Blow Brigade would have started to attack her on her tweet. But here it is that we have used donor funds, Leonard. We have used donor. These are the same people. Their taxpayers' money Guyana has taken to do a lot of the things it has done. And these are the people whose taxpayers' money Guyana has abused in these election processes. How do you expect, if somebody is giving you money to run your elections and giving you money to do this and money to do that, and you just keep wasting it because you believe you have a whatever right to stay in power regardless of what the voters think? Then the people have to speak out. And one by one, the international community, their words are changing and becoming extremely pointed now, Leonard.
Yes, it is. And so we go straight. Let me tell you what transpired this morning with regards to those fires. And this is some of the statements that are coming out from the authorities. Police are investigating a fire suspect to be arson at a rented building by GCOM at Force Ali Wismer Linden in the wee hours of the morning, according to information received. The fire was reported by a female security guard that she was in the security hut in front of the building at 1:55 hours when she heard an explosion at the back of the building. Upon checking, she saw two males running west of the forest, Ali Wismer, and the upper flat of the building on fire. The upper flat was burnt with the roof engulfed in flames. Fire tenders were quickly summoned on scene and the blaze extinguished. Investigation in progress. So we go down. Let's go to the Army base, 2nd Infantry Battalion, an unoccupied building located at Marius Lodge, Escobar Coast, where neighbors observed what appears to be fire and smoke coming from the top flat, where public-spirited citizens managed to extinguish fire by forming a bucket brigade, where they managed to keep the fire under control. Subsequently, the fire attendant number 88 arrived at 4:30 with Commander A. Posada and 4 crew members who arrived and visited the scene. The police were also there. It was observed that the floor of the said building was semi-burnt, along with the walls located on the northern and southern side of the building. It's a one-story building, and they're saying that there was no electricity, and there was some fire. It looked as if it was arson as well as several fires. It looked as if something was set. And then there's another one, setting fire to a building. I have to report an alleged fire, which occurred around 5 hours, 5 to 5:06 this morning, to the CID building. This is Criminal Investigation Building at a Regina Police Station. Inquiries revealed that Constable Benjamin was in the compound on duty making checks when he observed smoke coming from the regional detective inspector's office, and as a result, the fire service was called, and within 5 minutes they responded with water tender 100, and it's located in the northeastern corner of the Regina Police Station. It's a wooden building, and it's resting on concrete pillars. Let me see, I go down, it's pretty long. And the said window, let me see. In the building, they're said to have wooden shelves to store files and law volumes. Um, the desk to the western side has a computer system and several files. This is a fire department report, it looks like. There's no electrical items nor points on that side of the building. Total damages not yet assessed, and there's investigation. It looks as if somebody set fire here as well, so that is being investigated this morning. So I want to bring you those three things, and let's get right down into the meat of the matter today. As we speak today is when the GCOM chair would have ordered Keith Lowenfield as chief elections officer to present. It was an ultimatum to present his report, and this is very serious. She would have already issued 2 letters to him, with the last letter making it very, very clear that he's under the direction and control of the Guyana Elections Commission, and then therefore he cannot consider anything except to present the report. As we speak now, there is an indication, something surfaced that a motion has been filed. We're not sure what that means. There's nothing that indicates that there's an order or any interim injunction blocking GCOM from doing. So at this point in time, GCOM, based on what we've seen here, has a 2 o'clock, I think either 2 or 2:30, in which Lowenfield still has to hand in his report. And if he does not do that, then GCOM could very well go ahead. That is, if all 6 commissioners and the chair turns up at that meeting there. If they do not, then we might have a problem. I'd go back to my co-host, and then maybe we could discuss a little as to what could happen, assuming that all things are equal. So over to you, Yog.
Thanks, Leonard. And just to be clear, there is no indication of a filing per se. There is no date. It's just it's this. I don't know if it's a male or female, so I can't say Mr. Messenger Jones. But this person would have employed Maya Robertson to approach the courts to get a hearing or to have the court allow this matter to be heard. Whether the court has will allow it is another matter. So let us see. I mean, it's a working day. I would want to think, based on the discussion we had last night as well, you know, a lot of people are now saying that the judiciary in Guyana is now being made into what? You know, I don't want to say laughing stock, but it's been made into a showpiece that is not going to be the envy of the world, you know, Leonard. And so, with all great due respect to the judiciary, sometimes we got to ask whether the judiciary is going to allow this matter, which in effect, what it is really, in effect, it's Lowenfield would have stolen or wants to steal these elections for his intellectual masters. He wants to steal these elections, and he wants to go to court to say, allow me to steal, allow me to thief, because whatever I have stolen, Guyana must accept it and move on. You know, if the judiciary, they would have to know what's the limit to their tolerance to some of these things too, because the CCJ's ruling is extremely clear. The CCJ's ruling, I mean, none of the lower courts can go against the CCJ's ruling. But, you know, I mean, there are legal luminaries and legal non-luminaries as well, that would want to ensure that you know, something happens here. Leonard, critical issue here is that once again, there is going to be a delay. We got minutes to go for 2 to know whether Mr. Lowenfield is going to cower behind the skirts of an information of an intent to file.
And Yog, while we're talking about that, there's indication that at least one of our viewers, listeners, would have sent us this little piece of information. The person that filed the court proceedings, and this assuming that it has been filed, is a counting agent. Identified as a counting agent, some messenger. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Forgive me if you're listening, Ms. Jones or Mr. Jones. So that person has been identified as a counting agent. And so we will continue to follow that information. Yog, this morning it was also brought to my attention that a complaint was filed to the police by the GCOM chair, Claudette Singh, Justice retired Claudette Singh. That is because one of the persons, or the fake profiles, I would say, some guy named Rahim Rahman, who would have
Oh, we banned him from our show,
yes,
remember?
we would have banned this person because that profile, whoever it is, I have a deep suspicion. I think I know because when you look at who the persons associated with that or friends, they're very close to a particular political party or parties, and this is what
Then
that.
let's put it out there. When we banned the person from Kaito Radio's Facebook page, the person's Facebook page had David Granger as his flag mast, as his front page, as his cover page. So that is as clear as it was. And at that time, remember, I called the person out. I said, you're representing David Granger and to be threatening people on our show.
Right.
And that is not
Right. So, Yog, this is what Rahim Rahman had to say about Claudette Singh on his page or her page, whoever that person is with a fake profile. If you, Claudette Singh, think you will declare fraudulent votes so the PPP will win, well, think again because you and everybody in your house will be, that is a bad word, dead. They use a bad word there. And so this thing was handed over to the police, which I understand that it was handed over by himself, Claudette Singh. So the funny thing is, based on my report, I don't think Claudette Singh has anybody living with her. So I think, but it has to be taken seriously because this is this is the
Leonard,
GCOM chair we're talking about
yeah,
here.
but what is more important here is the state that we have descended into. Now, look at it this way. This guy, and it has to be a fake profile maybe, and the person would have threatened the chairman and the chairman's family. But on our show, the person threatened every other viewer, right?
Mm-hmm.
The issue I have here is that every time you look at the Guyana Rags headlines and you see some things being said in the morning, you see a couple of things happen during the day. And over the past week or two, Leonard, we have gone beyond having people threatened. We are seeing fires. We are seeing people protesting in front of GCOM. We are seeing all kinds of things. Yeah, yesterday, I mean, look, here is David Granger, who, which month it was? It seems like so long ago, when the people didn't protest, they didn't behave badly, they didn't do anything, when they spoke out at that forum in Marriott, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And he had all kinds of adjectives to address them. What happened yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
So it is a clear myopia, intentional myopia. It is wicked. It is wickedness that people are descending to this level. And you know what, Leonard? The longer these elections delay, that is exactly what we're going to descend into. People are going to not be able to control themselves. You and I have called on everybody. Let's stay calm. Let's remain calm. Let us not be agitated. But you would have the Rahims, and I know it's, I mean, that guy has abused a well-known name. That the name Rahim in Islam is a very, very great name, and that man has abused it.
Yes.
Right? So I would want to say that we need to get these elections out of the way, or else we are descending into chaos.
So this is coming from Kaichor News now. This is the breaking story with regards to Messenger Jones. And I think some people are searching and they're not finding. They see some, I think on the East Bank, I think maybe in Mocha they're coming across a Messenger Beard, but no Jones. So I'm not sure if this person actually exists. I presume they would have to exist on that list of electors. So let's go here. Coalition supporter wants court to force GCOM to use 10 struck down declarations. That's the headline that they have here. A registered voter, Messenger Jones, through attorney at law Mayo Robinson, Robertson has moved to the High Court with an attempt to force the Guyana Elections Commission to rely on nothing but the 10 March 13th District Declaration, which was struck down by GCOM Chair Justice Claudette Singh as the basis on which a final election declaration is made. Justice Singh yesterday invalidated those declarations, and so they have no legal effect. Notably, they have included the fraudulent March 13th Region 4 declaration made by Region 4 Returning Officer Clement Mingo, and all were overtaken by the national recount. And this is the breaking news by Kaichur News and Yog. But I want to come back to this entire issue, because now that I'm looking at it, it's starting to sink in. You see, when we have people in authority, and I could remember one boy, I think it was a presidential convoy was passing, and a little boy showed them the middle finger, and the police later went back and they arrested that person, and I think he was charged. I remember that. So when you have one of the most important person in the country, a very critical person, and you could go blatantly and you could have a threat like this, the police must be able to take actions. Furthermore, a few days back, I think it was Keith Lowenfield that said that he received a death threat and therefore hurriedly left a meeting in which his boss was about to issue him a letter instructing him what to do. He left that meeting without that meeting being completed or being given permission to leave, saying that he's received a death threat, and he exited the place. I can't do that. If you had a boss, Yog, or you had a board of directors with a chairperson and you were the chief executive officer that was supposed to be reporting to them, all hell would come down on you if you decide to just get up because you need to go to the toilet or you have something to do at home. There's nothing more important to the entire country than what is transpiring there, what is supposed to be taking place there. And so the police has not come out and say whether Keith Lowenfield, who would have taken it upon himself to walk out of that meeting, because that's what it is. He walked out of that meeting claiming that there's a death threat on him. Did the police investigate? Was a report made to the police? The police can't say. As of now, we don't know. What is important is that the GCOM chair, in a very clear threat to her life and to those in her household, that they would know what to do with her, that it is there and she's handed it over to the police. I would love to hear what the police is saying at this point in time. The police, by extension, yesterday, has the police force, they got a very clear mandate, Yog Mahadeo, of ensuring this COVID-19 rules. I am not seeing the chairperson for the COVID-19 task force, the national task force. This is Moses Nagamutu. There should be no pretense of calling him prime minister anymore. We have to call it as it is. So let us see how it goes from here. He has not come out and say anything about people protecting themselves. So which leads people, when you see people in Blackbush Polo coming up to you and say there's some people who believes that this COVID thing is a whole fake thing that is being put out there. Because when you see attitude and when you see actions or non-actions by the authorities in Guyana, and by Moses Nagamutu and by extension whoever else is in charge there, and they allow people to congregate, then you have to take it as a big fake. That's how people would read it. So we lead by example. So when nobody takes action, the police doesn't take action, the COVID-19 people doesn't take action, what are we saying to the people? I'm not sure if you have another take, but this thing is getting beyond ridiculous. There's nobody who's leading by example, who's supposed to be in charge. We have authorities and there's no respect for authorities. We have courts, there's no respect for the courts. What are you telling the people when they go before the court? When murderers could walk free, well, they could very well get up and tell the court, go to the High Court, and then somebody allow them to go free. You know what's going to happen? We are heading downhill in a very, very quick manner to a very chaotic situation in this country with no kind of respect for the laws. And that is because our leaders have opened the door for that.
Yeah, indeed, Leonard. The sad thing too, Leonard, is, I hesitate to say this, but at the end of the day, we have to. A couple of weeks ago, persons were arrested for being in a peaceful picketing exercise. but they were picketing for one of the political parties. They were picketing on behalf of, I think, Irfan Ali. And so they were arrested, albeit a day later or whatever, a week later, the matter was thrown out. But what happens now? What really happens now, and what really happens when the shoe is on the other foot? So you are right when you refer to that case with a little boy. You are right. I mean, the law only seems to be applying to some people. In addition, I think the Commissioner of Police had given his word that the assets of this country will be taken care of, will be secured, will be watched, will be under protection. We are finding things happening that is extremely strange. And Leonard, I rather suspect that these people who are bent on creating disharmony in this country, they're going to try one thing after the other. I would want to beg our brothers and sisters all across this country, do not be tempted. Do not get yourself riled up so that you will respond in any manner of anger or hate. Let them show what they really are. With each passing day, one after the other, they're being identified. It's only thieves would back thieves. It's only people without integrity would back a man who has no integrity. And so one after the other, they're clearly standing up and identifying themselves to this public, to this country. And ladies and gentlemen, it makes no sense that we waste our emotions over people who are just steeped in disharmony and steeped in criminality. The truth is, Leonard, that this case here, like the last two, this is now the third time that APNU AFC agents is going to court to beg the court to allow a rig to happen to Guyana. They're stealing and they want to go to the court and beg the court, please allow us to steal. Literally, ladies and gentlemen, Lowenfield is thief. He's a thief. He's a cheat. He's stealing these elections to suit what figures he wants, what his intellectual master is telling him to do. And with that, he is now going to the court to say, listen, I have stolen this. I want to besmirch, spoil, poison the whole career of the chairman. You got to tie the chairman's hands down, ladies and gentlemen of the judiciary, that she must accept this poison fruit. That is what they're going to court for, Leonard.
Well, let me put it to you. This is one commissioner this morning. Commissioner says Gunraj on his Facebook page. 41 years after they murdered Father Dark, they have now recreated similar doom in my beloved homeland. Elections are won at the ballot box, not in court. Whither the historians? And you could feel the kind of depression that is coming on here, the kind of anger, the frustration that's coming out here from Commissioner Grunrad, that they've been here fighting this thing back and forth, and then you look across the table, some of your colleague commissioners are hell-bent not to allow the rule of law. So, when this thing is all over, which it will have to come, Yog, because I can't understand which one of the leaders in their right mind would want to govern a country in which they have not been given the will of the people. Which leader would even contemplate doing something like that? You and I talked a couple of weeks back about what it means to be a parliamentarian, what it means to be a minister, what it means to be the president. Think some way along the line to serve the people of Guyana. I think the word serve and service would feature very prominently. And when you would have been there, it's supposed to be a distinct honor. It's supposed to be a privilege to be sitting in the National Assembly, to be sitting as the president in the most powerful seat of Guyana. And when you're sitting there, and you want to think back, your grandchildren is going to say to you, Yog Mahadeo was a good president, Gildarie was a good minister. So it is something that we'd have to talk about. We'd have to continue to impress upon the people the importance of when you decide to take the oath of office, what it really means. And so, Yog, we get into some more details now. I think it's Chief Justice Roxanne George will Wednesday, that's tomorrow at 10 a.m., hold the first hearing in the case filed in the High Court seeking to block a declaration in the results of the national vote. This is coming out of one of the media house newsroom, I think is reporting this now. The political parties which contested the election are all expected to turn up a court to get the Chief Justice through the case because it flies in the face of the very clear directions already set out by the Caribbean Court of Justice. What I think, Yog, maybe you could wade in here with your legal knowledge. Do we have anything that is stopping GCOM from going ahead with its business as of now, although this case has been set for tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock?
No. In my own view, we got to look at two things. One is what has been the remit, what has been the behavior of the chairman of GCOM when matters approach the court. That's one. And two, whether there is an injunction, whether there is anything to say that, these things or GCOM is stopped from doing anything. GCOM is not stopped. There is nothing that can stop or has stopped GCOM from doing what it ought to do. The attitude of the chairman has been that if a matter is in front of the court, she would want to wait, having been a former judge herself. So I would presume that she is going to wait.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see what happens. And Yoga, let's go straight into the Kaichor newspaper today. This is July the 14th, 2020. And this OAS Secretary General, the OAS Chief, this is Organization of American State. This is Louis Almagro. He has written his bosses at the OAS so they could hold a meeting of the Permanent Council. There's a couple of countries that would be part of the Permanent Council decision-making body, so to discuss the Guyana election situation. And we have to pay attention because we are part of several organizations around the world, key organizations. The OAS is one of them. The Commonwealth is one of them. CARICOM, the United Nations, we are part of these bodies here. And when you see they've summoned or they're asking for a meeting to discuss this situation again, it's something that we cannot just throw on the wayside. It has to be taken very seriously, because if we get struck out of that, our country, it's going to be the start of a domino effect from the other places which have also threatened. CARICOM are also looking at the situation very carefully. So is the rest of the world. I'm saying. GCOM chair says Lowenfield given final chance to prepare a report on recount figures by 2:30 p.m. today. Well, Lowenfield is as an officer, as a worker of GCOM, has clearly told his boss, to hell with you, and because that is what has come out of here, because he could have had a say or submitted his reports in this morning. It takes about 10 minutes to do that, I understand, if you have it in front of a computer. The deputy CEO, this is Roxanne Myers, on standby if he refuses. This is the main headline, Kaichor News. Finance Ministry warns staffers not to discuss government business. A circular was issued, I think, by Michael Joseph, the Finance Secretary, and hours after he would have given them that, tell them do not discuss any business that we have with the Finance Ministry. Somebody leaked that out, so nothing is being kept secret. A little funny story, but serious as hell too. U.S. aid calls on Granger to assure peaceful transition on government. We've been seeing a lot of calls like that from various agencies in the U.S., various representatives in the U.S., including Secretary of State as deputy, the U.S. aid. Now we would have had congressmen also and congresswomen also joining in that. Oranduc oil, similar to crude produced by Venezuela, Brazil, and Angola, Eco-Atlantic CO. 3 patients recovered GPHC from COVID-19 using plasma from survivors. This is a big story, Yog. I think there's a possibility, if they look into it, that maybe we could have something going on here. So they have used plasma. This is blood from something to do with the blood that came from patients, and they've used that successfully to treat 3 patients. And as we on that, Yog, we have noted that we have passed 300 cases in Guyana so far. Nothing to be proud of. This is something that we have to continue to pay attention. We're not going to be out of this. Somebody asked me this morning, yesterday, whether we are going to have school reopening in September. I highly doubt it, not at the situation that we have right now. There's too much risk. CSEC Cape exams begin as COVID-19 fears mount. Almost 13,000 students registered. Lowenfield remains on the job amid mounting calls for dismissal. Anok says GCOM chair showing weakness. Is it weakness, Yog Mahadeo? GCOM chair throws out March 13th elections declarations. Is it weakness that the GCOM chair is showing here, Yog?
Leonard, I don't know. I mean, we have had, as a country, we've had a lot of patience with the GCOM chairman. A lot of persons have expressed a lot of unhappy views with the way she has chosen to run things there. I think, unfortunately, one of the things that has happened is that every time she is allowed a little bit of leeway, so for example, yesterday, she said, okay, let's meet tomorrow. It could have been another 2 hours yesterday itself. It could have been another 2 hours yesterday itself, because all this guy has to do is to add up some numbers and bring it back to her. He is just a glorified bookkeeper. I said that yesterday and I'll say it today. He doesn't have to do any strange math. He doesn't have to do anything strange. He already submitted to the commission in his preliminary report what the numbers of the recount revealed. And all he had to do was to use the formula to look at the seats allocation in the National Assembly. So, but every time chairman has given him the leeway to say, okay, come back with it, he has gone to the court. Or somebody has conveniently placed an action in front of the court. So it is important that, all of these people who are holding this country at ransom, I mean, I don't know, Leonard, when people don't take this thing about the sanctions seriously. And so I certainly would want to see that whoever filed that last court action, that's frivolous as it was, would be part of that list. Is it something that we consider? Is it something we'll think that if somebody is allowing their names to be used for such wild political purposes, that they too can face some sort of personal sanctions? All of these things are in the mix for discussion anyhow.
Well, let me tell you this, based on discussions or what people would have been reaching out, and I'm telling you, these are people in authority, various diplomatic circles and so on. We better take it very seriously. These people are very serious as to what is happening. They have not seen anything based on our discussions in room 592. We'd have had Peter Wickham there. We'd have had Senior Counsel Raf Ramkaran, and of course our good friend from Trinidad there. How you doing? And so what is made very clear, these are things to be taken very seriously. But Yog, we understand right now that the meeting scheduled for GCOM is going to go ahead today. So this is going to be interesting. Let me tell you something. If this meeting go ahead and there are all the commissioners going to be present, which I understand they are present, the GCOM chair, without any orders stopping her, could go ahead and make some decisions here. So this is interesting. While there is an indication that there's going to be a court case tomorrow, in the absence of any kind of orders, the GCOM chair could go ahead today. But here the issue is, you can remember the last occasion, she would have, on the side of caution, allowed that court case to go ahead while she waited. What are some of the things that you're thinking that she is going to probably... her patience is wearing thin now based on those two letters that she sent to Keith Lowenfield on the last occasion, and then this latest ultimatum, bring it by tomorrow. If not, we are going to take actions, because that's what she's saying. What do you think?
Well, Leonard, this court action is not just against her, it's against GCOM. So if she wants to now say, well, Myers bring the report, Myers is a creature of GCOM as well. So it's an interesting thing that's in front of her. I rather suspect the meeting, if it's going to be held, will be very short. Leonard, one of the things we need to ensure everybody knows is that the brigadier and his crew would have gone on their spew of saying only valid, all votes. First of all, it was all votes matter, all votes must count. And then it was a thing of only valid votes must count. And we all agreed, only valid votes must count, only valid votes must count. Now, this court action in part is asking for Mingo's declaration to be used. In part, paragraph 14 and paragraph 14 and 15, I think, of this filing is complaining that GCOM has decided to hold the report in abeyance because of complaints. And you know, those are the 10 paragraph 10, 11, paragraph 13 basically speaks to it. We are going to certainly read through it and deal with it in detail. But, you know, what is amazing here is that all of these people who've been crying only valid votes must count and blah, 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 now they want to go back to Mingo's declaration. They want to use Mingo's. And remember, this is what Lowenfield did in his last report. He took Mingo's numbers, right? Mm-hmm. And so what we have here is not a blatant attempt to do anything except what is right. Anything except what is correct. And this is the set of people who want to rule Guyana. And Granger is saying, well, Lowenfield did right and Lowenfield is a good man. That's the man that wants to run Guyana, David Granger, knowing that this thief, this rig is happening in front of his own eyes and maybe by he and his intellectual authors behind the scene. I mean, this is amazing, Leonard. These are the people that want to run this country.
Well, you think that's amazing? They had something, I forgot to tell it to you, and I think, you know, we have a lot of good, decent people who've been joining us, and I'm not sure whether you guys should laugh, take it serious, or what to do with it. I don't know what to do with it, or how do I deal with people like these. I've been thinking in my head, because I've lost so many friends during this period. When I say lost them, a man called me this morning, and a man very high up in society, and he was talking. He says, you know, people stop inviting him now because of some stands that he has taken, politically and otherwise. And it is something that we have to all live with, what our politicians would have been putting us through. But there are actual talks now, Yog, about partitioning this country. You recall the India and the Pakistan situation, what would have happened there, and the partition, what would have happened. We have some, I don't want to use the word, we have some people here who are actually talking the talk. Let's separate the country in two, put blacks on one side and Indians on one side, Afro-Guyanese on one side and Indians on one side. Are we serious? This is the kind of conversation that we're having now? Partition.
Well, Leonard, it seems, look, it cannot be. Those discussions are rife with danger and dangerous thinking. You cannot say that put Afro-Guyanese one side and Indo-Guyanese one side. What happens to the mixed people? What happens to Portuguese?
Nobody else matters. Nobody else matters.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing. And what happened to the 25,000 people from all other races that voted for the PPPC? You know, where are they going to go? And I know, I'll tell you this. Two of them approached me to say, let's start having this discussion about you know, having a partitioning, and let's talk about Guyana's future. And I'm thinking, so what do you want? Well, they want that all persons of a certain ethnicity to get up and move out. And so I'm, you know, it's ridiculous. But I want to tell you this. A lot of quote unquote big men are behind this chorus. A lot of big men are behind this chorus. There's a lot of thinking.
Are you serious? This is a serious conversation that people are having?
And I'm telling you this. A lot of big, quote unquote, big men and big women are behind this thinking from the perspective, and I mean no disrespect when I say this, people are putting forward the view that that whatever else, if your foreparents came here as servants and your foreparents came here as anything else, it really didn't matter because you came and you met a country. So I sometimes want to think it is a frustration. I sometimes want to think that it is a matter of people being what they are. But for me, it is a much dangerous thing, because it means what it's telling me is that some people are never going to allow this country to be. Leonard, A month ago, what were the words used by David Hines? Burn the ballots, burn the ballot boxes, burn it and let the APNU AFC stay in government. They're not saying let there be transition and let's talk. No, there must never be another government other than APNU AFC. And coming down to the bottom line of everything, that is what a handful of persons want. They don't care about elections anymore. They don't care about corruption. They don't care about the rest of the world anymore. What they want is that Humpty Dumpty and his band of horses and men must stay in government forever and ever. Amen. The problem we have is that with each passing day, you're having a country that is breaking into bits and pieces, psychologically, physiologically, and now they're talking about a geographical breakup. And it's not doing anyone any good. Leonard, show me where Walter Rodney would have even contemplated such things, that his persons who hold his name are spewing. Show me where. And to you, Mr. And this is another fake thing, we're seeing, and I wonder why they're using certain types of names, like the Raheem guy. Why are they using certain types of names? But I just want to say this: they want to take this country to a place where it can never emerge from. As a people, we got to stay strong. And I believe as a people, we will emerge from this land. We emerge from 28 years of rigging and banning of basic food items under Burnham. If young people would not know this, if you wanted water, potable water, you had to fetch it for a mile or more on your head to get water, right? You had to get a party, a PNC. You think what Paula Lawrence said a couple months ago was just something that just came out of her mouth like that? That is based in people's DNA. In the 1980s, you had to get a party card, a PNC card before you could get a job. Even if you had to work in the offices at Gaisuko, if you had to get a job at Gaisuko's as a junior bookkeeper or as a machine fitter or anything, you had to go to the PNC office and get a party card. That is what we're heading to back right now. That is exactly the place they want us to get to. And I want to say this last thing here now. During the slow fire, mo fire brigade and whatever the word would be used now, during that period of time, what happened? A handful of persons went and they did all kinds of, we just say walk. In Guyana, we just call it walk, religious walk, right? They did all kind of walk on the Supreme Court gates. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And on the Parliament gates. Guess what was happening this morning? A group of persons went to the gates of Parliament.
I saw that. I saw videos.
Yes, they have restarted this thing, and it is serious. There is a group of persons that believe that no one other than this small cabal has any right to rule Guyana. And to Mr. Looper, whatever your name is, Mr. Loopy Loop, I don't know. If you want to know where Jagdeo is, go to his Freedom House or go somewhere where PPP is and ask the man, this is not a PPP platform. Be gone and go and ask. If you are so obsessed about Mr. Bharat Jagdeo, sir, go fall at his foot somewhere. Now, don't come bother about Jagdeo here. Leonard, these people are ridiculous.
No, hold on. They had a guy named Lyndon Jones. I don't know who that is. Guy asked me this morning to, I got to read it to you because when I don't know how to answer these people as to, let me just get it so people could understand. The guy is asking me to talk where I am. What do you mean where I am? How do you deal with something like this, Yog? The people are asking you where you are. But you're right. People asking Bar Jagdeo. I saw something about Bar Jagdeo has flown overseas on a special jet. How did that happen?
Well, listen. And here is how it's ridiculous. Nobody can fly out of this country, you know. They have to get special permission from guess who? Mr. Joe Harmon, the man in charge of all the rigging. Anybody want to fly out of this country has to go get permission from Joe Harmon and Moses Nagamotu. Leonard, if there was any truth to Jagdeo being outside of this country, don't you think Joe Harmon and Moses Nagamotu would have been on air talking about it? It's just insanity. It's just the fodder that is being fed to people, and I don't know how people take that Kool-Aid and they drink it, and then they go post on my page and your page and everybody's page about this nonsense. I mean, it is nonsense. It is blatant, absolute nonsense. It is fake news. And, you know, you remember a couple of weeks ago, Leonard, you remember when somebody posted some airplane ticket for Joe Harmon that he was flying out of the country going to Miami? We didn't take that and run with it with any reasoning. We didn't take that as sacrosanct because it is the time for fake news, right? So
Well,
I don't know. People drink this kind of Kool-Aid and they try to spread the Kool-Aid to everybody else, and they get vexed when you don't drink it with them.
it is a funny season, so let us bring you up to par, up to speed with regards to what is happening. It's elections and COVID-19 watch here on Kaicho Radio, 99.1, 99.5. You could also get us on Kaicho Radio Facebook and YouTube, and we ask you to subscribe on YouTube so we could be able to send you lives. Every time we have a live going on, you could have some notification of that. In the meantime, Yog, let me tell the people of Guyana that GCOM, which was set to have a meeting today to discuss that declarations figures that Keith Lowenfield, as chief elections officer, was ordered to submit. They are going ahead with that meeting now. We've had a confirmation that they are going ahead with it. From all indications, also we understand that the commissioners them are there. As to whether Keith Lowenfield has turned up there, we don't know whether he sent in the report or not. What we do know is that there is a court case that has been filed to force GCOM to make a declaration based on the fake figures that was submitted by Mingo. And so that case is coming up before the Chief Justice tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. In the meantime, there's no orders, which is stopping GCOM from going about its business. It has not been granted by the court. So we are awaiting indications from our reporters as to what exactly it is that GCOM is doing this afternoon, how long that meeting is going to last, whether any decisions are going to come out of that meeting. So that is where we are at the moment. This morning there were 3 reports of separate fires or attempts. Two in Esquimo, one in Linden, and the Linden GCOM sub-office in Wisma was burnt. It is a rented building. We're not sure as to what exactly was destroyed, but that is it. 2 persons were seen running away, which has an indication that it may have been arson. And then the CID office, there was some attempt to light fire there. Something were burnt. And then the armory, I think it's an old building, abandoned building or not used at the moment, right on the Esquimo coast, that somebody tried to light fire on it. I think they were able to bring all 3 fires or attempts under control after the fire department were called. There seems to be an indication as if there can be any coincidence, but we're paying very close attention, following it and see what the authorities say. That is where we're at the moment. And Yog, before we go to the lines, over to you.
I agree in terms of what you just shared out, that all the commissioners have turned up for the meeting. I don't know if Mr. Lowenfield is there, and we don't know if his report is there. But we do know that that it is the meeting. Everybody has turned up for the meeting. Leonard, I just want to say this in passing, and I mean it very seriously. We have had some ridiculous attacks here, and people across this country are being attacked. The moment you post something on your social media page, these people come and they attack viciously, these Kool-Aid drinkers. And I just want to say to the Kool-Aid drinkers, the PPP, whatever it did, whilst it was in government, the PPP lost power. They became an opposition party. It seems like these people still believe the PPP is in government because they're carrying on like as if it is the PPP has to be unseated and the PPP has to lose power. The PPP is in opposition. It's your government, it's your president that has overwatched massive corruption, massive degeneration of Guyana's status in international sphere.
Mhm.
So, you know, the thing is, Leonard, it is the WPA and the AFC that voted that the Walter Rodney Commission of Inquiry report must not see the light of day. Do you believe this? It is the same AFC that used to protest against the road projects and against the street lights and against the Marriotts and against the specialty hospital and all this thing that gone and spending $1 billion minimum first, not minimum, sorry, part. 1 billion is just part of the total cost of this project at East Coast there in Ocean View, right? And so it is the same people. It is Granger and his team. And Leonard, I say this without fear of contradiction. I believe anybody who supports Granger, anybody who supports Mr. Lowenfield with his stealing can only be a thief because you are benefiting from stolen fruit. We said this in 2014, 2015. Remember, Leonard, in 2013, 2014, what had happened to Kaichor News, Leonard? When the public servants started to leak information about contracts, you remember that time? Public servants were leaking information about secret deals and secret contracts, and Kaichor News and everybody used to post it, right? And I remember that's how this whole thing about the Lethem cable project, remember that contract that blew up in everybody's faces? How all those things become. Now what you have the person in the Ministry of Finance writing to people and said, these things are secret. Don't talk to anybody about anything. Don't engage in any discussion. It is secret. So it is okay. It is okay as long as it's against one set of people in this country. But the cabal can continue to steal. The cabal can continue to rape Guyana. The cabal can continue to run this country and its people into chaos. Because, Leonard, what else will you call what is taking place in front of GCOM by a group of persons that is obviously paid to do what they're doing? When you and I, Leonard, the moment we step out and we go to a protest, we'll be locked up.
I gotta make sure that I don't do anything wrong driving along. But
the Global Brigade can curse everybody, can come onto my social media page and tell me how I must think, and tell us that we have to accept the demigod that is Granger as the Almighty God. That is not going to happen, and it will never be allowed to happen. You know, people for 28 years we have been cheated as a people, cheated but not defeated by Fort Burnham. Granger has put Burnham to shame. Cheated but not defeated. And now, again, if the people of this country will be cheated, know for sure we will never be defeated.
Yes, and Yog, there's a statement that's coming out here from the President's office. President Granger abides by the Constitution, rejects Nanlal's wicked and spurious statement. And let me read this very quickly. I won't say anything. Maybe Yog might want to respond to it, except read it. The Ministry of the Presidency rejects outrightly the wicked and highly outrageous statement issued to the media by Mr. Anand Nandlal, captioned, "The sanctimonious gangster on the prowl and the clinical insanity continues," and which accuses President David Granger of hatching a plan to remove Chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, Justice Retired Claudette Singh, from the helm of the Commission. Mr. Nanlal's accusations are dishonest, malevolent, and dangerous and based on spurious and unsubstantiated fiction. This statement is clearly aimed at creating panic and confusion among the citizenry. The ministry therefore calls on every right-thinking Guyanese to reject the statement and condemn Mr. Nanlal for his attempt to instigate fear and confusion in the country. President Granger has repeatedly said and demonstrated that he respects the integrity and autonomy of the Elections Commission and that he would abide by any declaration that the chairman makes in keeping with the laws of Guyana. The Ministry of the Presidency calls on Mr. Nanlal to retract his baseless and irresponsible assertions. And I come back and I read that paragraph again. Mr.
Well,
Granger,
Leonard,
go ahead, Yog.
if you read what Granger is going against, you have to read what it is he's going against. In other words, if we read out to the people Granger's statement accusing Nandlal of something, we got to read what is it Nandlal said.
You have it there?
Yes.
Please.
And Nandlal said as follows. Anna Nandlal said, late last evening, news began to circulate that President Granger is spearheading an initiative to remove Justice Claudette Singh as chairperson of the Guyana Elections Commission. For whatever it is worth, all are reminded of Mr. Granger's repeated public commitment that he will accept any declaration GCOM makes. The public commitment can be added to his repeated jejune and placatory public pledges to uphold the Constitution, to adhere to the rule of law, and to abide by rulings from our judiciary, and so if only for posterity. It is clear that this latest initiative is being explored because of the chairperson's obdurate refusal to use fraudulent and fictitious numbers. So in other words, Nandlal was responding to what was circulating, what news was circulating, and he made a statement. And in closing, he spoke to, unfortunately for these plotters, they are faced with an additional but unique conundrum in Guyana's constitutional matrix as it relates to the removal of a chairperson of GCOM. So Anil Nandlal took that thing circulating in all the outfit on social media, and he applied the law to it and say it doesn't have any space, it doesn't have any legal space. I don't see that Nandlal would have done anything other than what would have been expected of him, but that Granger could respond and say that what he called for all walk-and-minded.
Hold on, let me go back to that again. 1 second, let me bring it back. 1 second. Okay, he's calling on Nanlal to retract his baseless. Let me see. The statement is clearly aimed at creating panic and confusion among the citizenry. The ministry therefore calls on every right-thinking Guyanese to reject this statement and to condemn Mr. Nanlal for his attempt to instigate fear and confusion in the country. So as Gildarie is here, shame on you, Mr. Nanlal, shame on you. Why would you do that?
Yeah. And you know, Leonard, I'd just like to call on Sean Ponte. Sean says that we are promoting that we should stop inciting racism. Sean, I don't know where what you heard and what we said would have had anything to do with racism, my brother. But you know, what we have said, let me repeat for your benefit. We have been faced with rigging for 28 years under Burnham, and Granger got 5 years only, and he rigged at the end of it. Simple as that. I don't see any racism there. I don't see any one political party in this country that only got one race. All of the political parties go on their campaign boasting how they represent all the races. So if I speak about PNC and I criticize PNC, am I only criticizing one race? It means you are admitting that therefore the party is made up of one race. I don't see any political party that's made up of one race. I see people like Bishop Edgil and a lot of people over in the PPP slate that are not Indo-Guyanese, and I see Moses Nagamutu and all of them over there. I don't know what race people are talking about. When we're talking about politics, we're talking about politics. So Sean, clarify it for me, my brother. If there is something that I've said that in your mind is racism, tell me and I'll be happy to apologize for it.
And as we on that, we continuously have been instructed by by the owner of this radio station and his family that we to continuously invite all and sundry to join us on this radio program here to bring the different sides of the story. I tired now till I come to stopping. I'm not going to ask anybody anymore. We have written, we've asked them, we've called, and it's obvious that they are not wanting to come on. Nobody wants to come under the spotlight. Nobody wants to be pressed. Nobody wants to be accountable to the people of Guyana right now. So when you talk
Well,
about racism, I mean, I don't know what else to say there, Yog. I'm not sure.
yeah, one of the things that Nandlal said that I think has earned the ire of David Granger, and I want to share it here. What Nandlal said is actually, I agree with the way this sounds. You know, thieves have gone to the High Court to complain that they're not being allowed to steal. Full stop. People want to rig these elections, and when you talk and you expose it, look, ladies and gentlemen, how much this narrative has changed from Mingo on 6th or 7th of March, going back 4 months ago, when they said one thing after the other and they keep changing and changing, and now they're going back to Mingo's figures. What happened to all votes must count? What happened to this thing about the Order 60 that they went to the CCJ about and said the Order 60 is cast in stone, you cannot move it aside? What happened to all of that? Now you are going back conveniently because you know you cannot get out of this because the Order 60's recount numbers show that you have lost. So they're now going back now, resurrecting.
Yog, we'd have to break in here. There's a live coming from GCOM there. Let's cut to that live and then we analyze it and come back again.
Yes.
My apologies.
Not to my knowledge.
Could you say what happened at today's meeting?
Not to my knowledge. But the fact of the matter is that that is not what's before us because we were advised, informed, in my instance when I arrived here, that the matter has been filed in the court. And we brought it to the attention of the chairperson that she has established a pattern, a practice. When matters are filed, she does not proceed with the business of the meeting at that particular time. And so against that background, we have not proceeded into any of the substantive issues that would have been before the meeting today.
Were any, the CEO, the chairman, were they served?
Yeah.
The chairman was served.
With
The chairman was served.
With what? Whatever document there
I'm
was.
not sure.
The chairman,
is it notice of motion? Is it?
you're going into the content.
I do have, I don't have the details.
We're not going into
The usual practice has been that when a matter has been filed, the practice of the chairman has always been that our business is held in abeyance until the determination of that matter. In fact, even when a matter is terminated, is court, she always insists that we await the written judgment to proceed. Shortly before 1 today, we received from the chairman a soft copy of the filing, shortly before 1. Shortly before 2, we received an indication that the Chief Justice has set the matter for hearing at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. In those circumstances and in the normal practice, we felt that it was in the normal course of things happening normally, that the substantive matters that we are supposed to address should await those proceedings, as we have done on every occasion since the chairman took office last year.
So the commission will not.
So that is the position which we adopted. We made that known, made that presentation. So the substantive matters to which we were going to address at this meeting, we could not.
So what was the best
proceed. That was the only issue.
I would say the meeting was not properly convened insofar as the issue of whether we'll meet or not is what occupied our time.
The other thing is, was it as a result of the
court action that the CEO didn't submit his
I don't
report?
know. We can't comment on that.
An explanation wasn't offered to the chair?
We cannot
Like I said,
speak to any
we
matter that
were
was substantive.
engaged in that meeting primarily in the determination of whether we meet or not.
Was the CEO present? No other matter that we engaged in.
Huh? The CEO is there. The CEO is there. He's physically present.
Okay, so it wasn't ascertained at the meeting whether he had his report there to present or not?
No.
We did not ascertain that.
So what happens from here on?
You'll be advised.
So would you be meeting?
We'll be advised
You'll
by
be advised
the
by the chair.
Is the normal practice for the chair to advise
Yes,
what is
they
the
are.
next step? And that's what we're waiting for. We're waiting for her to advise us accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Good afternoon and welcome back again to this special edition of COVID and Elections Watch. And we would have been bringing you there statements from Commissioners Vincent Alexander and Charles Corbin. And what they're saying there is that the meeting was for GCOM was brought to a halt because they were there. So let's bring it very, very quickly to you there. One is that it seems as if some kind of indications that there's a court case was brought to the attention of the commission. This is a chairperson. The meeting today, which was the whole world was told would have been dealing with the declarations of Kit Lowenfield. Apparently, when they went there, according to the government coalition commissioners, that they're not even supposed to have been meeting on that. They were supposed to be meeting on whether we were supposed to be meeting or not. And so you could probably try to confuse me a little more there. Over to you, Yog, as to what you understand as to that very confusing meeting, whether we meet or not, whether we talk about it or not, as to what happens now.
Well, they basically went to ensure that they are recorded as present and to say that they're not supposed to meet. That not to have it said that they didn't turn up for the meeting, because had they not turned up, then who knows, the chairman might have just adjourned and say, well, let's have the, without them, we'll proceed. So they ensured that they turn up to kick the meeting out. And actually, it's interesting, as you and I predicted, we predicted this, that they threw it right into the chairman's face to say, you have set this pace. You have put us on this type of journey, whereas whenever we got notice of any court action, we take a step back and we allow the court to have its day. And so with what you have done in the past, Madam Chairman, now we wish to throw it back at you and say, well, we cannot meet. Today we are here to say that based on your own practice, we cannot meet today. And that's basically what transpired there. They could not comment, or they refused to comment as to whether Lowenfield had a report ready. I believe they did intimate to a fact that Lowenfield may have been present there, but refused to comment as to whether he had a report ready.
That's correct. So Lowenfield was indeed there. 6 commissioners were there, but they were meeting to determine whether we should be meeting or not. Very, very confusing times for people.
But let us keep something very, very clear. The Lowenfield's report was due at 2 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Lowenfield's report does not have anything to do with whether the commission meets or not. And Lowenfield himself, if you want to go with custom and practice and how they have been practicing things, Lowenfield, against the Court of Appeals stay, went ahead and sent in his report this last time, didn't he? And so nothing, if Lowenfield should proceed to do, as everybody is saying this is the way it was done in the past, then let Lowenfield done exactly what was done in the past and send his report, because it would be interesting to see what is the report he had intended to submit today.
Well, and you're right, we got to put it in perspective. Yesterday, he was given a very clear order as a creature of GCOM to submit some reports. The meeting that would have been held today, whether it was held or not, would be separate from that, separate and distinct from that. That's my understanding. So did he comply? It seems as if they did not comment on that. They don't want to comment on that. And so we'll have to try to dig a little more to find out whether Lowenfield did comply or did not comply. If he did not comply, is GCOM, is the chair going to go ahead and take actions against him? I'm not sure. Does she have to have a commission meeting to take actions against him? Do we know that, Yog?
No, no. But however, she would want to ensure that she passes by the commission.
Mm-hmm. So this is interesting. It all comes down to what does the GCOM chair do at this point in time, because there's nothing stopping. She's already given a very clear order to Keith Lowenfield. There's nothing stopping him from doing it. And if he was present there, did she ask him as to why he did not submit that report? So we don't know that as yet. We are going to continue to stand by for any other interviews that would come. I think there is going to be some opposition officials who are going to be there to tell us, commissioners that is, as to what else may have transpired, the other version of what has been coming out. So let us see what happens.
And
here.
I think,
yes.
Yeah, I think, Leonard, that according to Says Gunraj's social media page, he has said that Commissioners Alexander, Corbin, and Trotman walk out of the GCOM meeting, and Lowenfield refuses to respond whether he has prepared a report.
That is interesting. Let me see what Says Gunraj would have said there. Yes. Yes, and this is indeed so. This is what he's saying. So, how... This is getting ridiculous. So you have the boss sitting down there telling his worker yesterday, you need to come today and comply, and he's sitting down there and he refused to respond whether he has to prepare the report or not. What does a chairperson do?
Right.
What does a chairperson do? I think this is coming down to a very critical time as to when we bring the spotlight straight down on the chair as to whether she has a very clear understanding what her authority is, whether we continue to prolong this with the games that has been playing out. That is what we're seeing, a lot of games here. I'm not sure whether this is another twist in the plot, because I think that undermines the importance, the seriousness of this entire thing, which has become a whole joke right now. I can't put it in any other way. Maybe I'm lost for words too, Yog.
But, Leonard, it is, as you rightly say, it is interesting we keep the perspectives up there. Let everybody realize what is happening. The PNC commissioners are saying that the chairman set the practice of not proceeding with meetings when there is a notice of court action. If one uses that logic, Lowenfield had set the practice of submitting a report regardless of a court's stay. And therefore, following Alexander's logic, Lowenfield should present his report. Nothing should stop him. But here it is, at the end of the day, Leonard, as long as you're not willing to see APNU FC win, you're not going to have your day. You're not going to be allowed to say anything. You'll be attacked, you're going to be beaten, you're going to have presidents come out against you to make statements against you, as long as you're not willing to make that statement. Unfortunately, that is what the reality of Guyana has come to.
I think, and so let's sum it up and we head to the lines. I think you and I talk enough there, because this is getting beyond ridiculous. I think the authorities should be paying attention. Every day it's a new twist in the tale, and I think a total disrespect for the laws and the adherence to laws and orders of the courts. It would be very hard for any individual from the coalition now to talk about the rule of law and the respect of law now, because clearly this has to be in their court when it comes to how people should respect and how people should continue to respect them. Anybody who has a love for this country would have to see it as clearly for what it is. which is total disrespectful, total disrespect for the laws of Guyana. So I think we are going to head to the phone lines, 226-7453, 226-7453. There's a call online.
Hey, how are you, buddy?
Good afternoon, caller. Go ahead.
Man, I'm a frequent, very dedicated listener to your program.
Yes.
And we're looking. Hello.
Yes, go ahead. You're in the air. Go ahead.
And at this moment, I just texted before my WhatsApp before the feed came in from the commissioner, the leader, the government commissioner. The only thing I see right now, we need heavy external force to get these people because they're gonna twist and turn. We're looking twist and turn.
Yes, go ahead. You're in the air. Go ahead. Could you lower your volume? Could you lower your volume on your radio, please? We're getting a feedback here.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Leonard. So we're looking at there should be some external force to change to oversee this operation right now. That's the only thing I see because they're going to have us. I keep telling everybody this thing is not going to finish within the next month, maybe. Because with the experience with these people, they would find every twist, everything, and they're bullies. We can't move them up like that. I mean, to see hostage a country, thousands and thousands of people. It's very saddening, sickening. I mean, locking out people from the country to get here, it's even worse.
Yes, I thank you very much. Any other points, Carlo?
That's what I'm seeing. I mean, I've been following this program and looking at everything. The only thing we see is external force to remove them and end the drama. That's it.
Thank you very much, caller. And it is something maybe, Yog, that's one I didn't hear really asking external forces. Is it something that we have seen countries that has gone into that mode? Is that something that we should be contemplating at the moment?
Leonard, I don't, no, I would want to say no. The world is not, the world is not going to, we are a sovereign nation, and I would want to encourage everybody to look at that clip from, I think you shared it as well, Leonard. Look at that clip from Peter Wickham. It's about 14, 15 seconds, I think, that outlines the difference between sovereignty and legitimacy of a nation. Very interesting. Now, there is another point here that is extremely important. So what will happen tomorrow with this matter in front of the court? We have to recall that the High Court, and I think in this case it's going to be Roxanne George, right? That is set to listen to this petition. She has in the past expressed great concern about not wanting to usurp the role of the chairman or the work of the commission. We got to realize that the commission is an independent authority. Where the courts can question the commission is on procedures, whether its procedure is to do this and its procedure is to that. But to force the chairman to make a decision, in other words, the court cannot declare this election. The court cannot say that this man's report is correct or incorrect. The court cannot declare who is president of this country. So that has to be very clear. What will happen is that what is interesting is that if Roxanne George throws this out, will the applicant be given leave to appeal the matter at the Court of Appeal? And I have to look at the order, and certainly in tonight's room 592, we'll look at the basis upon which this filing is being made, and see whether it can extend as far as the CCJ, because certainly I think, without meaning to bring any disrepute to the courts, I think Guyanese are sick and tired of when things go to the lower court, and then when it goes to the court of appeal, what happens and the difference in thinking and stuff there. So, what this does is prolong this thing a little bit more. What we do know is you can hold up on one hand what Roxanne George has stood for in the past, and she has clearly stood on the Puritan side of the law, pure law. She has stood on the side of pure legal logic. She never tried to conflate the issue. I remember her painstaking admonitions that were issued on the Mingos case to say, counsel, I am not going to go there. That is an election petition. So she painstakingly reminded the stakeholders and the persons in front of her what's the difference between an election petition and an administrative petition. And so given the way she has been handling matters, and high praises to her. She really stands out as a person I admire a lot with the way she has dealt with a lot of these matters. And given the way she has dealt with these matters, one could say the trend is so. Given the way Court of Appeal has dealt with these matters, one could see the trend is in another way. And again, given the way CCJ has dealt with matter, you would see in another way. Where does it leave us? I would want to say at this venture that this matter will be thrown out. Mm-hmm. Whether it's by this court or by a higher court, it will ultimately be thrown out. And ultimately, the chairman will have to declare these elections. So, you're delaying. Ultimately, it will have to go back to Claudette Singh and GCOM.
What is stopping Lowenfield from submitting his report? The chairman needs to fire Lowenfield now. Sanctions need to take place. Yog, if you look at the messages that's been coming in, there's a lot of criticisms of the chairperson.
But hold on, they are applying some I hate to use the word smartness now, but they're applying something here where before the hour of whether Lowenfield will be called out for non-presentation or false presentation of a report, they're filing a matter. So nobody could say he didn't comply with the chairman's order. You see the point there, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody could say that he didn't comply with the chairman's order because you just don't know. And that being said, therefore, it's after this matter is heard tomorrow that we will have the next steps. Lowenfield is once again protected.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see what happens, Yoga. Good afternoon, gentlemen, Dr. Yog and Pablo. If any Indo or Afro-Guyanese needs a country should be divided, they need to immediately go to Africa, India, or the North Pole. The land belongs to all citizens, born and bred regardless of ethnicity, the land of 6 races, all 83,000 square miles. God bless. There's a call online. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Gildarie.
Good afternoon, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
We are just interested in this topic that you touched on with Peter Hughes. Now, this is my question. This is it that I want to discuss. You got a piece of discussion time back pertaining to a little piece of history. But this is it that I want to speak about. Peter Hughes last night mentioned about 73%. Freddie Kissoon had a nice piece of discussion recently upon this program, and I feel you mentioned that Freddie Kissoon will be coming back on the program. But here was it I wanted to do. I want to be a part of a panel discussion with the man in the street, because what we name speak about, the fellow from Barbados, this
Owen Arthur.
Yes, not Owen Arthur. Peter Wickham.
Oh, okay.
You addressed him last night as the political scientist. Now, he don't live here at Bencham, but something that you mentioned that struck me. The 73% that you're speaking about, they got fiction and reality. And one of the things you speak about is upon the groundwork. And that that is something that I would like to be a part of the Man in the Street panel and 592 with Freddie Kissoon to discuss, because I don't think that, I don't want to get into some things too deep on this program, because you got people that got serious short-term issue that y'all could address that would want to get out of this program. I just want to tie it up upon a lot of things that I would like to be in a discussion, but I would happily let people get my number and give me a call and let me get a discussion about the Man in the Street. That is back and forward, because I'm telling you something now. What Peter Wickham speak about the 73, it's accurate upon his opinion not living here. And some of the things that I would like to be addressed quietly is like, okay, we should, let me get this part quickly and just give me a chance. When early on in this program, 2 months ago, Dr. Yog had Infernali upon this program, and he was questioning him on some things in terms how we know that, well, they wouldn't got this some playing the role that they used to play. Now,
Hello?
Central concern in this country, they got some, we scared about the bridge, the investment in the bridge. We went down at NBC building, we named Flip Motilal. These are the things that people worried about. So I would like to be in an open discussion just to speak about it, because I'm telling you, the 73% that
there is what I got your point, and I like what you're proposing there. Indeed, what we need to do is to have panel discussion, and I would like to encourage you, send us your number. You can WhatsApp it to the 6222. What's the number, Leonard?
62222. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, WhatsApp us your number and your name, and we'll certainly, because we need to have this good discussion. If I can capture what I think you're saying, what you're saying is that, look, regardless of how we look at this, there is a clear divide in people who are never going to trust the PPP, and there is a clear divide in people who are never going to trust the PNC. And we have to be cognizant of the racial balance or imbalance. I think this is what the caller is trying to say, that we got to be very careful about the racial insecurities that exist. So people are concerned that if the PPP get in office, then Afro-Guyanese will be worse off. And if the PNC stay in office, then Indo-Guyanese feel they're worse off. And I love that approach by that caller, Leonard, because it is by discussion that these things will happen. I want to remind everybody, it was no other than Freddie Kissoon, an Indo-Guyanese man that took the PPP to court for racial discrimination, right? We got to realize, ladies and gentlemen, that there are some people in this country that we call it how we see it. We don't care about the race mix and the race this and race. We are what we are. We cannot change what we are. And thankfully, God made us the way we are. We accept what we are. But we have to live and let live. And so I would like to encourage that caller once again. Send us your name, send us your number. And indeed, after these elections are over, we need to have such discussions that can address people's insecurities and address the real bottom line problem that we all think that is the biggest problem. That is the matter of race, Leonard.
I agree with you. More conversation. That's how you develop country.
Kudos to that caller. And I would really like to encourage you, sir. Please send me your number and your name, and I would love to engage in more discussions with you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Dr. Yog and Mr. Gildarie. Can you guys help me to understand this? Since Justice Patterson as GCOM chair was illegally appointed, Patterson appointed Roxanne Myers. Isn't she illegal to write the report? Thank you. A good point. I'm not sure was the answer to that. Yog?
You mind reading it again? Sorry.
The person is asking, it has been ruled that the former chairman, Justice Patterson, who was appointed and then the court overturned that appointment. He was the one who appointed Roxanne Myers. And now she's likely to be asked to make the declarations report. Would that not be legal?
No. I mean, if GCOM had a problem with Roxanne Myers' appointment, they had a lot of time to do something about it. I don't think they had any problems with anybody's appointment per se. And I don't have a problem with Low and Few's appointment or anybody's appointment. What I have a problem with is their not inability, but their refusal to follow the laws and follow what is expected of them as a creature of GCOM.
Mm. And so I thank you very much for that. And we probably go to the lines right now. Yes, good afternoon, calling you on the air.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm calling from Toronto, Canada, and I would like to ask a yoga question.
Sure. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, hi, Yog.
Yes, he's here.
Lower your volume.
Could you lower your volume on your radio, please, or whatever you have on there?
Okay, one sec. Yog?
Yes.
Hi, I'm a Guyanese. I am a Guyanese in Canada. I live in Canada here for 45 years. But looking at what's going on there for the children of Guyana, it's very, very hard to watch what's going on and how these people, what they're doing. They're not thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about the kids. They're thinking about themselves and how to get rich and what to do. And I really pray to God that they get sanctions, let them know what went on in Brazil, what goes on in Cuba and other countries that got sanctions. Let them eat the grass, because since they're so stupid.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead quickly.
Thank you. We know everybody is emotional, and I thank you. And it is good to express our emotions. But on that point, I would also like to encourage everyone that I agree to an extent that political leaders make decisions on political expediency. They make decisions to prolong their stay in power. And the children, and if the children's future does not come in their minds at all, is Granger thinking what might 3 generations down the road thinking? Is Granger thinking, and I'm not talking about his children, I'm talking about children of Guyana. Is Granger thinking, had Burnham thought about what today's Guyanese would have thought about his his blockading or blocking of the importation of wheat and flour and split peas and all of that, knowing, and Leonard, when people talk racism, sometimes I get bothered. If a particular percentage of the population eats, what do I say that would not put me in trouble? If a particular percentage of the population eats nuts, I hope I'm not in trouble by saying nuts.
Squirrel eats nuts.
Yes. If a particular percentage of the if only Yog and his family eat nuts in Guyana, and the president bans and makes importation of nuts illegal, will not Yog and his family feel that is a direct strike against me and my family? And so when Burnham took that decision to ban the importation of flour and split peas and things like that, remember, it was a lot of people who saw that it was a race-based decision. And remember also, they used to get it, They used to bring in for themselves and enjoy all the cheeses and the milk and everything that you could think of. Now, with that same token, Leonard, I say this, and brothers and sisters, forgive me. I don't mean to attack anybody. But Yog Mahadeo, I feel insulted when I see anybody address anybody else as a hungry belly, or address anybody else as dogs, or address anybody else. We are a people. We are a civilized nation. People have their political biases. We cannot address them in matters. If you have anger and you have hate about what people are doing or saying, that is your right and that is your business. I cannot tell you how to think. But I certainly believe, my personal view is I do not address people in those terms, and I don't like to see it happen. I hate that Indian people could call themselves coolie. Nobody is a coolie. Nobody is a servant here. And I hate that the similar kind of term could be applied to people of other races. it is something that we got to be cognizant of. If you don't like people calling you something from one side of the divide, then you shouldn't be calling people on the other side of the divide. Address people how you would wish to be addressed. Deal with people with how you would wish to be dealt. I have called out this cabal for the rigging ways, because it was no other than Granger that said, if you do the crime, you have to do the time. Regardless of what race. I believe that Mr. Moses Nagamutu is not being kind to history, to his personal history of being a fighter for Guyana, and so I call him out on it. But I don't go call him any personal insults. So, ladies and gentlemen, we gotta also all realize that people are sensitive, and when we address people in any way that is you want to talk about. I see a lot of people raise things about the Son Chapman tragedy, and in response, people raise things. Well, what about all the Wismar riots? People talk about the 64 killings, and in response, people raise other things. You talk about Burnham days, people talk about the PPP 23 years. You know what? If we want to put all of that aside, if I'm not saying we should, if we want to put all of that aside, where are we today? What we have today, putting everything aside, is a group of people who refuse to accept that they have lost this election. And Leonard, the critical matter here, if the Guyanese public accept this, if the Guyanese public accept that the elections doesn't matter, you are committing our children and grandchildren to a state of heartless, sanctimonious, criminals that can take over a country that doesn't have elections. Can you imagine 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, no elections? What kind of country are we that we will not respect the right of the voter, the will of the voter, just because a handful of you hate Jagdeo or a handful of you hate Granger? I don't care about Granger. I don't care about Jagdeo. I care my vote must matter. My parents suffered long, and my grandparents, whether they were Afro or Indo, they suffered just for the right to vote. And today, we are burning away that right to vote, man. And anybody, in my view, anybody who will back the destruction of a primary, basic foundation of democracy has no respect for humanity. Our foreparents sweated, slaved themselves just for a right to vote. And in 2020, you want to tell me my parents' blood, sweat, and tears must not matter because one man wants to stay in power with his cabal? No way. That is where it stops. But I am not going to attack. I am not going to call them names. I am going to address the facts. And when they cheat, I say you are cheating. When they steal, I say you are stealing. Other than that, I don't call them any names.
Thank you very much.
That is what I would like to beg people to do.
Thank you very much for that, Yog. And of course, so we get passionate too when it comes to the protection of this country. And of course, you have also, as a people of Guyana, whether you live in here or you're part of the diaspora, to open your mouth, to start talking, to ask, to demand, to request our leaders that they have to see that this country needs to go forward, and any shenanigans like what we're seeing here, any attempts to subvert, to divert, to do anything that is going to thwart the will of the people, that should not be tolerated. We kick you to the core, but that's what we're going to do. And so if you're not joining us on this elections and COVID-19 watch, let me tell you what you need to know. There was a meeting scheduled around 2 o'clock to discuss the orders that were given, that were issued to Chief Elections Officer Kate Lowenfield yesterday for him to come up with a report. As is expected, there has been a twist to the tail. That is because a court case has been filed. There's no orders that's stopping GCOM from going ahead. Nevertheless, according to reports that we had, 3 coalition commissioners, this is Charles Corbin, Vincent Alexander, and Desmond Trotman walked out of the GCOM meeting. This is according to the colleague commissioner, says Gunraj. Even though this matter here was supposed to have been addressed with Kitlow and Field, there's no orders from the court which would have stopped GCOM from going ahead and doing what it's supposed to be doing. And there's nothing stopping the GCOM chair from going ahead and take actions against Kitlow and Field. We don't have any indications at this point in time whether that was done. So we're waiting some confirmation, maybe some other information coming out from the other commissioners, the opposition commissioners, that says Gunraj, Bibi Shadik, and Robertson Ben. Nothing so far. What we do know is that the Chief Justice tomorrow is going to be listening to that case, or maybe throw it out. We're not sure what's going to happen. 10 o'clock tomorrow, that case comes up. In the meantime, as far as we know, GCOM is likely not going to meet until the outcome of that case. More twists and turns, more shenanigans, more delays. Guyana has been, it's 134 days since March the 2nd, that elections. This morning, Lillian Chatterjee, this is the High Commission of Canada, has made it clear this is how you concede a very clear message to the government of Guyana with regards to the choice of a new president of Suriname in the name of, I think, Chan Santoki. He has been chosen and he won the election over the incumbent Desi Bautase. And it is a very clear message from the overseas, the diplomats in Guyana, saying to the government, the outgoing government, based on the recount figures which have shown that they've lost, that you need to concede, and you need to concede urgently. So it's all playing out here. In the meantime, it's 134 days. I think we go to the lines now. There's a caller on line. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon. Trying to get you all along with your ease of talking.
Yes, I think it's Yog that overdo it, and then we have our people here that our boys in the studio like doing a lot of crazy things. But go ahead. Yes, go. I think we lost that. Yog, I think that they say me and you talk a lot. I love you, lady, whoever you are. Good day to you and all across this beautiful land of ours. Barbies, Essequibo, Demerara, and right across the Caribbean, wherever you're joining us from. I see even a call trying to come in from Barbados, Yog. A lot of people want to get on it, the air, the frustration, the anger over what has been happening here in Guyana. A good day to people in Canada, in the US, in Europe, wherever you're joining us from. We know that you've been joining us day in, day out. Thank you for that. You've been our rock of support there. There's another caller in line. Yes, caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, good afternoon, Yog and Gildarie.
Yes.
I like the passion that Dr. Yog was expressing just now about the fact that our fourth parents and all of that fight for voting. But last night when he had Peter Wickham in room 592, the man was actually telling us that we must give these people who are denying us the right to vote amnesty, and that he should have called him that is the wrong thing to say. You know, you have to call out people when they make erroneous statements. You have to call them out. You can't be one-sided, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's it? You understand my point?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear caller. And you might understand before I hand over, because you're very clear as to what Peter would have said there last evening. My understanding is that, they might be delaying this thing because they're scared that if they come out, that there's going to be court actions and charges and so on. And so to quicken the process, there should be something that, some mechanism that would, allay those fears. But over to you, Yog.
Yeah, the caller, I hear you, and I wouldn't disagree with you. And I did ask, I did push back Peter last night to say that, if you do not hold people responsible at some stage, those who if you do not hold people responsible, you'll be having a repeat and a repeat and a repeat over and over again. So I hear you. Peter's point, though, must be taken with great respect, because I think he made an excellent point as follows. And let me make it quick. What he said, if Lowenfield or anybody is concerned, he did push back Peter last. If they're concerned that if they speak the truth, that they will go to jail, then they will never speak the truth. And so what might have to happen is that somehow or the other people have to start talking to them that, man, do the right thing. Do the right thing. We'll discuss and decide on everything. And you know what? If you do the right thing, we'd be happy to let bygones be bygones. At the end of the day, the politicians need, and you know, I cannot in any way say that Mr. Jagdeo or Ms. Rhonda Lam or Mr. Ram Karan or any one of the politicians are not astute and they're not bright. They're bright people. And so they would be thinking these things because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we got to put Guyana first. And if putting Guyana first means that we got to give a little, do a little give here and a little give there, we may have to consider it. We are not going to be happy. But for the sake of moving on, we need to do certain things, you know, to put things behind us and move on. The question is, I was just going to say this when I see somebody post it, so what's next for Guyana now? And what's next for Guyana now is the big question. Because I think, unfortunately, going back to the last caller, Leonard, unless we are willing to say APNU AFC must remain in presidency, are we going to have a country? And that's probably one of the discussions we'll have in room 592 tonight.
And that is something that has been surfacing, Yog. You're so right on point. It's something that's been bothering me. Let's assume that something is forced on the Guyanese people, and of course I'm using as a basis the recount, which would have basically cemented the position or the figures of March 2nd and the counter that would have come out there based on the SOPs and so that were available to the media and so on. And the recount basically says that what you would have seen on March 2nd, those counts of March 2nd, it is one and the same thing, give or minus a few votes and so on. The question is, let's assume that the coalition go ahead and it decides to go against the grain and have themselves remain in power by some hook or by the crook. What kind of country are we going to be seeing? And let's assume that they remain in power, which they're trying desperately to do at the moment. This country here is going to see some sanctions. It is going to see some pushback from its locals. It is going to see the people who are talking about partitioning and whatever it is, we're going to see some fallouts from business because already you have some strange talks about let us don't shop at those people in Pleasance or Regent Street. So those are the kind of things that we're going to see. And we're also going to see a very unhappy country, which for over the years, although we had some kind of feelings, we had some kind of pushback, maybe some small pockets, but generally we've lived in peace, we've lived in love for one another. You see a domino game going on down in the Pleasance line top or wherever it is. There's a lot of love for the people. We've produced outstanding cricketer. I was in Camberville recently, saw the houses that our cricketers own and so on. And I could tell you, Yoga, that our people has lived largely in peace with each other, and there isn't a situation where we have racism in a very big way. What you have is politicians and their little minions are pushing this narrative that we have this kind of thing, and they're pushing it because it fits them, it suits them. And so you're right that this particular conversation, when it comes to what kind of Guyana are we going to see if this goes along, it's a conversation that needs to be had because people must know very clearly what is at stake here. And at stake here is what Guyana, the country that you know, how it is, what is going to happen, the creek days that we used to enjoy, that we still enjoy a little, the number 63 days, the beach that you have there, everybody sitting next to each other on a cricket match, cussing out Trinidad because we don't want them to win. Those are days that we're going to see behind us because you and I are going to be looking at our colleague, even some of our work colleagues, in a very specific way, in a very funny way. And these are things that are going to be at stake. Let's don't fight up and allow a couple of people, 40 people or so, that is pushing this narrative that's deeply dividing this country. Why should a Gildarie and a Yog Mahadeo put our entire family, and every single day we're getting threatened, we're being lambasted on social media because of the stands that we take? Why should we do all of that? For the sake of what? It is because we've seen something. We know what is at stake very clearly here. It is our country, the way of life as we know it, Yog.
Yep. And Leonard, you are right. Guyana, compromise is not new to Guyana, Leonard. And we got to remember this. Unfortunately, compromise only seems to be applicable from a particular side of the political divide. It is the PNC that rigged elections from 1964 to 1985. They allowed no compromise. When people tried to protect the ballot boxes, they were shot and killed. However, post 1985, there was compromise. I mean, I think the PPP would have given up 2 years of its legitimately won elections twice. I think that happened during their 23 years. One needs to realize that over those 23 years, how many elections were really held and how much compromises would have been made. Don't forget the Herdmanson Accord was compromised. That whole thing that end up now, what we have is that, again, we are looking and begging and expecting that people can soften their hardened positions a little bit for the sake of the country. Now, going back to the caller, we have to think, what are we handing to our children? We have to think that we are handing, look, not every one of us has the ability to go overseas and to take our children overseas. And you know what? Overseas is not a bed of roses. People are struggling when people send anybody, when my family send me $100 or a $20, buddy man, they work for it. Nobody bring it and drop it into their lap. They work and work hard for it. So we got to put things in perspective that 700,000 Guyanese living in Canada and the Caribbean and US, they have kept Guyana going by sending their barrels and sending money. So they must have a voice in wanting to see a return to democracy. Coming back to what I was saying, Leonard, the truth is that this PNC group, again, has played and outplayed their hands. Here is how this country is in a worse position than ever before. The PNC has shown that it cannot be trusted with power. How can you ever, regardless of what ethnicity you belong to, Leonard, how can you ever trust that the PNC will do what is right for Guyana? When they got into power, they gave themselves an increase in salary. Did anybody else get any? They started to tax the pensioners. Look at the projects that they held, the corruption. It was no different to what they opposed when they were in opposition. In fact, it was worse. 23 years, we never hit a $90 billion deficit of the central bank. Never, ever. Even Burnham was better. So the thing is, Leonard, how are we ever, and going back to the point you raised last week, my friend, Guyana needs a healthy and a good opposition.
Yep.
Here is a bigger problem. If Granger stays in government, Leonard, if Granger decides by hook or by crook he will stay there, nobody can remove him. The world has seen that they have stolen these elections. Is he going to have an opposition? I certainly know that, and I would not advise any political party to enter parliament. You cannot negotiate with terrorists. You cannot work with thieves. You cannot work with people who have held this country at ransom for 134 days. So I would advise that none of the political parties should enter parliament. So therefore, what will happen? They're going to be a government for themselves. Now, what happens to us, the taxpayers? Who are we going to pay taxes to, and what are we paying taxes for? This thing has a long, many years of repercussions that the people who are just thinking about today's power, they're not thinking about tomorrow and next year and next 5 years. And what does it do to our Caribbean integration? Now, a lot of them say, we want to hear about Caribbean. Nobody must mind our business. But you got family living in the islands illegally. You got family living in the US illegally.
We got to cut in here now. I think Says Gunraj is here. I think
Thank you. Yeah, let's go there.
We'd have to go there. So just bear with us, people. We are going to bring you live coming from GCOM from our reporters, Kaicho Radio, and we have Commissioner Says Gunraj.
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As is now in the public domain, another trick has been pulled out of, I was going to say a rabbit being pulled out of a hat, but it seems as though things are being pulled out from all sorts of orifices now. Another court proceeding has been filed. I want to say that I have seen a copy of those proceedings, and nowhere in those proceedings has any order been granted, nor any impediment being placed on the Guyana Elections Commission, its members, or its chairman from proceeding. Notwithstanding, after the meeting was convened, an attempt was made to discuss the matters at hand, including but not limited to an inquiry to the chief elections officer as to whether he had prepared the report. This inquiry, which was made by members of my side on the commission, was met by at least one member of the commission of the other side, saying to the CEO, he doesn't have to answer to us. Well, if he doesn't have to answer to the commission, I don't know who he has to answer to. This was speedily followed by the walkout from the commission by the other three members. And when that question was again put to the CEO, he refused to answer. He followed by walking out of the meeting as well. So here we are. The meeting was discontinued. I understand that the matter is fixed for tomorrow, and we'll take it from there. Like I said, as far as I'm aware, I have read the proceedings and I've made due inquiry. There is no impediment that prevents the commission from proceeding with its work.
Did you get the impression that the chairman was still willing to accept a report from the CEO?
Well, the chairman has made a request of the CEO since yesterday, and I don't see any change in that position as to why she wouldn't be expecting that report. There's no order of court that prevents him from presenting that report, and there's no order of court that prevents us from accepting that report.
The other commissioners talk about the precedent where once something is filed, she would refuse to go ahead with the order of the day.
I don't know that that's a precedent. On one occasion, what you had was an order being made stopping us. There was actually an injunction granted stopping us. On another occasion, they didn't turn up. So this is not new, and I believe that at this critical juncture in the state of affairs of our country, it needs to be addressing. We have to stop pussyfooting on these matters and get on with the business of the day.
As an officer of the court, is it normal, is it precedent to put on hold anything once court actions have been filed?
No. If courts have procedures which, if they want something stopped, they grant injunctions. In this case, there's no injunction granted. So obviously there's nothing stopping. Even as an officer of the court, it does not stop me. I do not hold any greater brief because something was filed. If every single day I want something stopped, I would just file something. And this clearly, in my humble opinion, is an abuse of the court system, but I'll leave that to the lawyers.
What does the Constitution say about JICA matters being challenged in court?
Like I said, I'd prefer not to comment on I'm wearing my commissioner hat today. I'm preferring not to offer legal advice or legal opinions on this matter at this point.
Yes.
Not that I don't have.
Yesterday you said that the chairman set aside the 10th declaration. In doing so, does that have to, the action has to be gazetted in any way?
No, it does not.
It doesn't.
It
So
does
for
not.
a word right there means
It's a
that
decision of the
it's a
commission.
decision.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, why shouldn't it be gazetted in the same way that the recount order had to be gazetted? When these are decisions by statutory officers.
The recount order was gazetted because it was done pursuant to Section 22 of Act number 15 of 2000, which requires such actions to be gazetted. It's not any old thing that you throw into a gazette. There are certain specific rules and governing the use and publication of the gazette. This is not one that requires gazetting. All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. The Commissioner Says Gunraj there in front of the GCOM headquarters in Kingston. And what he is saying, he is given a very graphic description of what has transpired today. with regards to a meeting that would have involved 6 commissioners, the CEO, and the chair of GCOM. And this is what he had to say. And then maybe I come across to my co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, who could probably give his opinion of what happened. So they're saying that the matter of the CEO the orders that was asked of the CEO to produce the report today. When that matter came up, he was advised by commissioners on the government side not to answer, and then they got up and left. Those are the 3 commissioners on the government side. That is Charles Corbin, Vincent Alexander, and Desmond Trotman. And the CEO was again asked. I think that's what I heard with my ears. The CEO was asked again about the issue of his report, and he got up and left. And so this is all very, very disturbing. An employee of the commission that was supposed to be carrying out the orders of his boss got up and walked out of a meeting with them. So Yog, over to you. This is very, very serious what is coming out from Says Gunrad's mouth.
Well, I'm hoping we can get Mr. Gunraj to spend some time in room 592 with us tonight. I'm really hoping that he can make some time to come. I know that they do not want to probably say and entertain too much discussions more than they probably have cause to, especially since this matter is in front of the court. But, let's see how that goes. Indeed, it is serious, and indeed it is a problem. It is a situation where we said it earlier, that is that if the PNC commissioners are impressing upon the chairman to say, you have done this in the past by not wanting to meet if there is an impending court action. So that's one, if, right? Then you need to not meet again. Number 2, if Lowenfield has, by the same custom and practice, has issued his report notwithstanding a court of appeal stay that stopped him from doing so in the past. So if one were to follow the PNC commissioner's logic, then Lowenfield should proceed to present his report. Now, we don't know, and they didn't ask Mr. Gunraj whether Lowenfield had a report to present and he didn't present, or whether the man turned up without a report. We don't know, or we don't know whether there was anything that Lowenfield would have been ready to do.
Mm-hmm. But Yog, I can't understand. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. And you would have been the chief executive officer of a big company in Guyana, and I'm talking about respect and as part of your responsibilities as the CEO to the board of directors. Could you have ever contemplated? Did you ever contemplate not listening to the instructions of your boss? The boss is saying that there's no other thing that is happening except that you are obligated to do certain things, and here you are as Yog Mahadeo telling your boss, as the CEO, saying to your boss, not saying anything about walking out of a meeting. Have you ever done anything like that?
No, and the only way that an employee should not take instructions from their board or their boss is if that instruction is a blatant illegality. So if somebody orders you to go and kill somebody, somebody tells you to go and hit somebody, those things are illegal. And so you cannot take any instruction that leads you to commit or to not commit, omission or commission, any illegality. That is a given. But this being said, I mean, remember, there is no court order stopping the commission from meeting or from doing its work. There is nothing that stops them. But obviously, the play has been set. They have done this before. They know that Lowenfield, as long as he receives notification of an intent to file, he's not going to budge. He's Mr. Scaredy Cat at that stage, and he's not, even though there is no legal basis for him to not tender a report. But we know it. I mean, we don't need to explain his actions or hide it or couch it in any way. It's a clear attempt to delay these elections another day. It's a clear attempt to go to the court to say, Madam Justice, we want a thief and please allow us to steal. please allow us to. We want to rig these elections, and please instruct the chairman to allow us to rig these elections. As I said before, I humbly believe that the court cannot declare these elections. The court cannot instruct the chairman how to declare these elections. The court cannot instruct GCOM how to count what votes to take. The court can only instruct them on administrative matters. These are your rules, and you followed or you did not follow the rules. We believe you need to follow the rules.
I can't.
Now, on that note, I would want to remind you, 2 weeks ago, I believe it came out as something that, it wasn't taken seriously at all. When I expressed an opinion that I believe that the stakeholders in the election process, including the PVP, need to go to the court, and I beg the court to please tell Mr. Lowenfield how to follow the relevant sections of the law, to interpret for him what votes mean. It can only mean valid votes. And what does and to follow the wording of Order 60, and give the tabulation, the data of the recount to the chairman. If he needs help to tell him what to do, then certainly I'm hoping CJ, Madam Roxanne George would disabuse him of any disillusionment tomorrow.
I'm a little puzzled here, Yog, and this thing is, I'm totally blown away about this entire thing. And why do I say that? I have families who were in the army. My dad was a policeman. And when it comes to taking the line of authority, following instructions, these are all things. Keith Lowenfield ain't no ordinary man. He has a history behind him when it comes to logistics. And according to the international bodies, the observers who were here for the March 2nd elections, he's done a tremendous job when it comes to managing the elections. Tremendous job. How do you see a man like that
Hold on. He has not done a tremendous job with these elections, Leonard.
With the when I say the elections of March 2nd.
Not at all, sir.
Well,
not at all.
Go ahead, Yog.
Let's be clear about a couple of things. What did the recount show us? The recount showed us that Lowenfield's officers, no other than Mr. Mingo and his deputy, they instructed boxes and polling places of the East Coast to not include their documents in the boxes. They instructed people what to do, Leonard. And thankfully, there is video, there is evidence to show what Mr. Lowenfield and his team were really up to on elections day. I shared a video the other day. You could see Mingo on that video. You could see the GCOM secretary, people opening the envelopes and taking out the documents. You could see what they're doing, and this is what the recount has allowed us to understand. That yes, the March 2nd had problems, and guess where the problems came from? Mr. Lowenfield and his team. Mm-hmm. Now what Lowenfield wants to do is throw away all those problems because they realize they're looking bad. They realize they're looking extremely bad with the procedures, with everything. So what they want to do is say it's all bad anyhow. Let's go back to take the Mingo fraudulent numbers and let's declare whether that's what Mingo Lowenfield now wants. You can now see, you can connect the dots as to where Mingo got those numbers from, as to who really are the intellectual authors and who has been conniving behind the scenes to get things going where they're going. So, Leonard, thankfully, the notion of March 2nd being smoothly run and well run, we have seen that it was not. We have seen, and we have the affidavit from people who have said they were instructed to do what they did. We have videos of people in the Ashman building with envelopes in their hands, opening it, taking out documents. You don't know what they did with those documents, Leonard. And then you see a week ago, 2 weeks ago, Lowenfield say, what documents? I don't have those documents in my possession.
Indeed, very shocking.
Yeah, this thing is very open. And you know what? I know that I have said, and this is irksome to the limit. Yes, on one hand, you got to look at moving on. On one hand, you got to look at compromise. On one hand, but these are the people that are taking these things to court.
The court should probably turn and ask him how you got these numbers, man. Show me, Mr. Lowenfield, what boxes you discarded, what boxes you throw away. Show me where you got these numbers from, Leonard. And let him show. He wants to challenge everything. He wants to jumble up and pick what jumbie numbers he wants. Well, the court should ask him, if you want the chairman to declare your numbers, show us where you got it from. And if it complies with the recount results, then all well and good. But you know what? The court is not going to listen to an elections petition. This is the shamelessness of this charade that they keep going on with. They're just delaying it. They know that the court is not entertaining an elections petition until a declaration is made.
Thank you very much for that. As we run down on time, Yog, very quickly, room 592 this evening. I expect there's going to be a lot to talk about with all the shenanigans that has been playing out today.
Yes. We have Mr. Selwyn Peters and Charandas Prasad tonight in room 592. It's going to be a hot evening in room 592. We have those two gentlemen, and certainly we are looking to have a discussion on this, the current matter being filed in front of the court, as well as their own perception of what would have transpired from the CCJ's decision to now. Don't forget that APNU AFC is not letting go of a couple of phrases within the CCJ's decision. They're ignoring the ignoring the conclusion, They ignore the conclusion of the CCJ decision, and they've gone back to paragraph 52. And they say we're going to hold on to two words here. And that's what they're doing. So tonight we're going to talk to Mr. Selwyn Peters, who, as you know, is an excellent attorney at law. There's practice not just in Guyana, but in North America and in the Caribbean, as well as Mr. Charandas Prasad, who is an attorney at law and has also been practicing in Guyana. And I think he's practicing or has started to practice, his legal practice in Canada. But we'll certainly be looking forward for an interesting discussion tonight.
It's going to be interesting. So let me see.
And Bernard, please, Mr. or Miss Rebecca Fraser, ma'am, sir, please don't go there. Don't say that. Let us not say those things.
Thank you very much for that, Yog. So very quickly in wrapping up, this is the meeting today with GCOM to have taken that declaration from Mingo has been stalled. That's because Mingo walked out of that meeting when he was pressed for the declaration. He did not answer. In fact, he was advised by commissioners for the government side not to answer. He walked out. So did the three government commissioners. As tomorrow, 10 o'clock, there is going to be a court case that has been filed by somebody. I'm being told, our people online are telling us that the person that would have filed the court case is a relative of some gentleman by the name of Christopher Jones. And so we're not sure. We don't have a confirmation that. So we're waiting. We are developing the story as we speak right now. And so that's where we are at the moment. Join us this evening at 7:30 p.m. in room 592. Dr. Yog Mahadeo, my colleague now, my co-host, is going to be leading, as usual, the questions and the discussion on elections 2020. They're supposed to be very hot. Charandas Prasad and Selwyn Peters, two lawyers. Charandas, you will remember the role that he played in the no confidence motion. So it is going to be a lot to talk about this evening. Unfortunately, our time has run out here on elections and COVID-19. I want to say thank you very much, dear Dr. Yog Mahadeo, and thank you, our people. We did not get to take as much calls as we wanted because of what would have transpired at GCOM today. And thank you, as usual, for joining us. We are going to be back with you 7:30 p.m. sharp. Stand by for that. And so, Yog, thank you very much. And everybody who has joined us, and of course, our crew here at Kite Radio. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant rest of the afternoon.
and chew to the beat of Mogu Mogu with fun fruit flavors and real nata de coco bits. Mogu Mogu, you gotta chew.
Distributed in Guyana by Saria Manufacturing Inc.
Kite Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kite Radio.